the question I have, so there is still an interest that you guys have for mobile. Um, what would be, and you said they're going to be much more lighter games. Would they be free to play, or are you actually going to do like you did before, where it would be like I think it was like $4.99 for a game?
Yeah, I don't know what the model is being proposed to be at the moment. The approach we'd used with mobile games previously was they were an introduction to the bigger games, and the bigger games being the 39.95 on a PC. They were meant to be fairly casual games, and it again, this whole business is dependent upon someone being passionate about it and driving it forward. And there was a guy, let's call him Blackie, who drove the mobile side of it, and he was the one who did a lot of the conversion of games. Unfortunately, he's passed away, and hence the iPad games, the Android games came to a halt. Now, John wants to pick that back up. Whether it would be a $4.99, whether it be a $2.99 or a free to play, I'm not certain. But at the moment, we are talking about how do we program in multiple languages so that we can do a Mac, do an iOS, do an Android at the same time, and then cut and paste what we want to put into each system. And mobile would be lighter than what we would say put out on a Mac or a PC, but we're looking at what are the right models to do that. It's not that we've gone too complex, but John just thinks that there's a whole introductory market there. People who don't have an hour to play a turn a day and play one turn. Someone who's got an hour and wants to finish a game. So we want to see what we can do with that. And I'm mucking around within that system an invasion of Russia, Barbarossa, that you can play in an hour, where you're moving just a couple of big army groups around on both sides. As an example. So we're mucking around with that kind of thing to see what would work. We've got a American Civil War one, which is more strategic than what we've brought out before. So it's again moving divisions around, not regiments or whatever, on a bigger map. So again, it can be more casual. It'll be a fuller game probably on the PC, but there'll be enough on an Android device or an iPad or whatever that you can get a good flavour for it. So that it's very early days on that, but we're looking at how we can get stuff that is cross-platform as compared to being locked into, say, PC only.
I'm really intrigued to see how that works out, because I think, one of the things that I think was always really cool and was really appealing to me about a lot of the John Tiller games is the campaign side of things, where you have very detailed tactical battles, but it's not just a battle by itself, right? You've got linked battles throughout a lot of the campaign series, right?
Yep.
But one of the things that I always thought was a little bit an area that I would like to explore more is there's a lot of branching and a lot of variability within those campaigns, but I always wondered, like, if I'm doing the Peninsula campaign, for example, or if I'm doing the Shenandoah campaign, if I don't want to retreat as McClellan because, maybe I didn't lose, or maybe I'm fighting a little bit better, you're always kind of in the historical or a slight variation of the historical battles, for the most part, at least in my experience, in playing these games. And if you had a little bit more strategic control, there are options in there, but if you had a little bit more strategic control, that would be really interesting to see if you could play with those same ultra detailed OOBs, but in a slightly more open strategic manner.
Yeah, I agree. Look, the campaign engine John's got is really, it's showing its age, and it's designed to link battles rather than give you a true strategic series of options. Yes, there's some branching there, and trust me, it's complex to write them, because you've got to have, okay, how many branches will I have? I'll have 3, so I've got to then design 3 scenarios with 3 different options, and let's say each of those have 3 branches. Well, I'm now up to 9 scenarios, and it just gets a bit out of control from that point.
Yeah.
The system actually does work when you want to do some double blind stuff, where you've got a battle and one guy picks his series of tactics, another guy picks his series of tactics, and you don't know what's going to happen. That's where the variability works. But you're right, to get a proper strategic, what I call a total war system, where, total war, you can, zoom around on a strategic map and then zoom into the actual tactical battle when you're ready. That's brilliant if you can end up with that. Are we going to be like that with some of this new series? Probably not down to the zoomed in battles like Total War, but we're moving it up a level where it's a bit like Panzer campaigns versus Panzer battles, where you're doing much more of a theatre-wide approach with the higher level stuff that we're looking at right now. And you'll get a level of battle resolution, but not down to, well, I'm going to put my battery on the hill and fire 3 volleys and look at who they're shooting at and away you go. But it's still early days, and that's where it's interesting. I'm someone that likes a proper strategic overlay, and then you drill into the battles. If you want to drill into the battles, you have the choice to do it at a tactical level. But it's horses for courses, and we're just going to decide what's the best return on effort. And if we were doing a mobile only, that probably wouldn't work. It's too detailed, zooming into lots of little men on a battlefield. It's probably much better doing it at the strategic level. But we're trying some new things. Let's just put it that way. But I equate what you're saying to the Total War system, and I'd love to have a system like that where you could choose to zoom in and really do it properly at that level.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that you guys are working on that. I'm curious to see what that looks like, though, just because I personally go back and forth on that, because I think one of the other aspects of the Tiller games that's really appealing is just, to your point earlier when you were talking about taking photos of different geographic areas and building that into those maps. And the games are known for their detail and their attention to detail, as you've already pointed out. So finding that right balance of staying true to kind of what makes these games very unique, while also figuring out how to try some different things, right, to open things up a little bit. It'll be really interesting to see what you guys do with that.
It's interesting when you say try some different things, because that's exactly the approach. If we say get a new strategic layer that works, then it's easy for me to build in the tactical layer below it. And some of this is for us to see what works and what doesn't work. The challenge we've got is we're a niche within a niche. So this is not massive volumes of units going out the door when we release a new title. So we've just got to balance up where we put our investment, where the return's going to be, and what resources do we have today to actually... And coding's probably the biggest issue. Having coders to drive it is probably the biggest challenge we've got. But you're right. We're starting to test various approaches, and one of these areas that I'd love to see us do a lot more work on is getting a strategic engine that works properly. And it gives us the flexibility. If we want to drill down, we can do it. And if we want to drill up, we can do it. And we're working through that right now.